West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel and Santokie, Kieron, and with me as ever is my partner in crime, Santokie Nagalendran. Santokie, how you doing?
Yeah, all good. You, man, Machel, how are you doing, man? You know, you broke the internet yesterday with the revelation that you cut off your locks. You know, it shocked a lot of people. A lot of people question whether it was artificial intelligence, whether it was a prank. I can confirm it's genuinely happened. And Mash, what's going on, man? You look like you're about to reform Boys to Men out here. You got that smooth trim. What's going on? How you doing, man?
I thought you were about to say that I was Stokely Carmichael or something like that. but yeah, it was time. You know, it was time. Someone said to me at work today, they were like, I could tell that you were going to cut them because you stopped looking after them. And it's true, actually, when I think about it. I no longer even cared about going to get the locks really retwisted or anything. And that was all part of the process of generally reaching a point where it's like, it's time for them to go. But like I said on, I think one of the shows yesterday, whenever I did it, I'll probably record something explaining it in full. But you know what? We move forward, Santokie. Actually, Do you know who I blame for this, Santokie? Do you know who I blame for this? It's West Indies' fault, man. Because when you think about it, what else happened in my life prior to cutting off these locks? I went for an unprecedented year of L's.
Unprecedented. That was the culmination. Man just had a breakdown after all. They just ran to the barbers and said, "Listen, I need a new start. I need a new clean start. West Indies have broken me." but Mash, we're here to look at a topical episode. Obviously, still ramifications going on from the 27 all out against Australia. Obviously, we've done a previous live stream. If you haven't checked it out already, watch that after this, where we sort of broke down what West Indies were doing. You know, they put together a working group to look at how we can change West Indies cricket. Had some big names on there, Mash. Brian Lara, Desmond Haynes. So Clive Lloyd, 81 years old, was out there at the press conference as well. Shivnarine Chanderpaul was named, although I didn't see him in any of the sort of media. He was named as being on the panel. And this working group sort of was tasked with reforming West Indies cricket, right? And so we've analysed it before. There hasn't been much tangible said. There's been a lot of promises about what could happen in the future, but we haven't got anything specific at the moment. But we thought we'd just kind of delve into something Brian Lara posted after the press conference where he talked about the future of West Indies cricket. So Brian Lara on Instagram last week, I believe, posted he done a post and said, in his words, "We must recognise that the challenges confronting West Indies cricket extend far beyond inconsistent performances on the field. They are deeply rooted in cultural, psychological and structural shifts that have evolved over the past 2 decades. If we are truly committed to reversing this decline, then we must be prepared to draw from a wider pool of experience and contemporary insight. In particular, I believe former players such as Chris Gayle, Dwayne Bravo and Kieron Pollard possess a unique and timely perspective that can prove invaluable. These men have not only played at the highest level, but have done so in an era that reflects the modern athlete's ambitions and motivations. Their proximity to today's players in terms of generational alignment and shared dressing room gives them an authentic understanding of what drives, distracts or disillusions the modern West Indian cricketer." Now, Mash, I thought that was really interesting because, as long as I've been following West Indies cricket, we sort of got this cohort of, players from the 70s, 80s, early 90s who were always called upon to give their opinion, give their insights into how we can fix West Indies cricket. Even this panel, this working group that was called up, was all full of players who'd made their debuts before the turn of the century. Nobody who'd made their debut after 2000 was called up on that. So I thought it's really interesting that Brian Lara has sort of broken the trend here and said, hold on, we've got a link of players, modern players, some who might not necessarily be known for their red ball exploits, some of them who are T20 franchise cricket players, like a Pollard, but we can work together with them. I think West Indies need to work with them, and this will help us build West Indies cricket. So it was really interesting that he took that route because he could have easily have claimed, I can fix West Indies cricket. Me and Clive Lloyd and Chanderpaul can do it. But he's essentially done an SOS call and said, look, the modern guys, we need to reach out to them. They've got a genuine. Oh, my camera's cut off, man. Clive Lloyd's trying to get my camera. But as I'm talking, Mash, what were your immediate reactions to what Brian Lara sort of said about it?
Yeah. So I think when I read the comments, the first thing that went through my head was, what made Lara say it? Now, I can't put words in Brian Lara's mouth, but the assumption that went through my head was that, did that speak to a level of exasperation that Lara was holding in with regards to the meeting that took, or with regards to the special emergency meeting that took place? Because why say it afterwards? Did he say it at the? I don't remember him saying it at the press conference, or
No.
did? Anyways, but the point is, why say that afterwards if that was something? Now, for all we know, he said it behind closed doors, etc. So so the first thing was, it kind of just raised some question marks for me about what then were his views about the meeting itself. Two, if I'm reading too much into that, the second kind of tangent I'd go down is maybe that was Lara's attempt to mount a wider intervention into West Indies society, cricket society, to say we need to stop always thinking the answer is let's go to the legends, let's go to the legends. Maybe it was his attempt to educate the uncles almost, or the wider cricket society, to say we can't just keep repeating history and expecting something to change the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time. And then the third tangent I'd just go down is, he's just talking common sense. He's literally just talking common sense. Like, this goes back to your point from a couple of episodes ago when you spoke about how comes we're still asking Clive Lloyd at 81 to come out and save West Indies cricket, right? And that doesn't diminish Clive Lloyd's exploits. That doesn't mean we can't learn anything from Clive Lloyd. But what other industry do you know, and I'm sure there are some, but what other industry do you know where you just bypass everyone under the age of 60? If like, what other industry do you know like that only wants to speak about people over, however great they were, only wants to reference people over 60 in a profession where the large majority of people are under the age of 30? Like, when you break it down like that, it makes little to no sense. So in that sense, Lara was just talking common sense. Maybe we need to talk to people who have actually been through the problems that we're now trying to solve.
Yeah, I think also, if you're like a Jewel Andrew or Jaden Seals, young sort of players, all of the guys that have been tasked with trying to fix West Indies cricket, they all played before you were born. They were playing before you, so you're not going to know that. So if you're Jewel Andrew and you know you got a Pollard coming up to you, you know Pollard from the IPL, you've seen him around West Indies cricket in recent years, you know what he can do. So there's immediately more of a connection. And I think it was crucial that Lara said guys like Pollard and Bravo understand how modern cricket works and the sort of dynamics there, because they've all played franchise cricket. They sort of know the ins and outs, technical abilities. Bravo's working as a head coach now. Pollard's one of the most well-respected captains in franchise cricket history.
And
so
pause there. The last World Cup, T20 World Cup, Pollard was England's assistant coach.
Yeah, and Bravo was Afghanistan, and Afghanistan was he the bowling coach, and they got to the semi-finals, right? So it's, again, it points to what we all say West Indies cricket match. How shameful is it that other countries are utilising the think tanks we have in our region, and we haven't even, as far as I'm aware, we haven't made an approach to get them in the setup when we badly need that help. And I think it sort of points to the fact that England, who were considered one of the innovative sort of white ball sides, they went to Kieron Pollard as their batting consultant, and West Indies haven't utilised that talent. So for me, it's stating the obvious, Mash. Just like Lara said, I was surprised he said that, because quite often in West Indies cricket, they're often, I don't think it's the case behind closed doors, but in the public or how the media portrays it, there's often seemed to be sort of a split between previous generation and the current sort of mercenary franchise players as they've been labelled. But I do think it's time for sort of West Indies to utilise that, because it also reflects the fact that, with West Indies cricket, it's not just Test cricket that needs to be fixed, right? It's the white ball cricket, T20 cricket, ODI cricket. So who better to call up than a Bravo or Pollard to help on that one? But the big one for me, Mash, is I don't know if any approach has ever been made or if it's his own choosing. Chris Gayle, I've never seen Chris Gayle involved sort of with Cricket West Indies coaching or sort of being a mentor. When you think he's the only world-class player we had across formats, particularly in Test cricket in the 2000s, the fact we haven't been able to call upon him is a massive blow for West Indies cricket. And it's unusual because he still plays for like West Indies legends and stuff and takes part in these tournaments. So he's still obviously got some sort of connection to West Indies. but we've never actually seen him help West Indies behind the scenes match, as far as I'm aware, in the public eye.
What should come first, the chicken or the egg? So should Cricket West Indies be reaching out to someone like Chris Gayle, Samuel Badri, Dwayne Bravo, Kieron Pollard, etc., or should those players be offering their services? And to be fair, Santokie, I already know what my answer is, but I'm only answering that question because I can see uncles saying if Chris Gayle really did care about West Indies cricket, he'd offer to come and do something for the batters and come to do a clinic and something like that. But is it as simple as that?
Yeah, I think Cricket West Indies need to make the approach. I think you've been naive to think, that players are going to be, out of the goodness of their hearts, offer their services to Cricket West Indies. I think Cricket West Indies need to come up with a plan, and what they need to show that they value this player. So if you go to Chris Gayle and say, look, Chris Gayle, like, we know what you're doing. We want you to come and work with these youth, man, with a Jewel Andrew on their batting. We need you to, you were a great opener. We want to groom Jewel Andrew into a long-term opener across formats. Let's go to that and work with that. Cricket West Indies need to come up with a plan because, like, again, going back to sort of, if you compare it to other walks of life, you need a company to make you the offer to work for them, right? You don't just knock up to a headquarters and say, oh, look, I'm here to offer my services. Will you take me? Companies, you need to see a job advert, or there needs to be some sort of plan. So for me, Cricket West Indies need to make that approach to Chris Gayle. And I'm surprised it's not happened. But it's interesting that Lara's, again, has pinpointed Chris Gayle as one of the 3 players who he thinks has been key to helping Cricket West Indies. And maybe if Lara's on that panel, he's obviously got some sort of massive influence on sort of what they do going forward. Surely he'd have placed a recommendation out at this point to say, the fact he's gone on social media and said it, surely he's placed a recommendation that, these guys need to be helped. Or if we're looking at it from the flip side, is it a case of that advice has been ignored, which is why Lara's gone on social media and put it out? Because he was in a press conference next to Miles Bascom and next to Chris Daring. So surely you would just say it to them, like, oh, let's get Pollard in. Why don't we get Bravo in? Why don't we get Gayle in? So unless there's been an issue and he thought, okay, I just need to go on social media, because then that will at least show you what my idea is, even if it doesn't come to fruition.
Do you know what's interesting? I swear, I'm going to say this, and I believe this is the player involved, but if anybody knows, please correct it in the comments below. Casey Carty, I believe, was interviewed recently. I swear it was Casey Carty. And they said to Casey Carty, who was your favorite cricketer when you were growing up? And Casey Carty's answer was Ramnaresh Sarwan, as in that was the batter he most wanted to model his game on. So whilst you were talking, I quickly looked up on my phone. How old's Casey Carty? How old's Ramnaresh Sarwan? This is just to make the point to the listening audience. Casey Carty is 28 years old. Ramnaresh Sarwan is 45 years old. And it makes sense, Santokie. So when Casey Carty would have been a young youth, 12, 13, Sarwan would still have been playing for the West Indies. When Carty would have been picking up a bat at the age of 10, 11, 12, whatever, that's when Sarwan's still seen as one of the best finishers in ODI cricket in the world and so on and so forth. So what's weird to me, Santokie, is our current generation will identify Sarwan's generation as the cricketers that they looked up to. Yeah. It is more than likely that if you ask someone like Shai Hope, which cricketers did you look up to when you were growing up, he has to name someone from Chris Gayle's era, because that's his olders to him. But somehow when we say that Shai Hope and that lot need to be mentored, we say, let's make him talk to Desmond Haynes. And that's no disrespect to Desmond Haynes. But and even
doesn't Brandon King wear Sarwan's number, right? 53.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
So
maybe it was King who said it. Maybe I've got it wrong, and it was King who said it. But go on.
Yeah. Well, so I'm 36 years old. To be honest, most of Lara's exploits, I wouldn't remember it happening at the time. It would have happened in the early 90s. I would have been 4, 5, 6 years old. So even myself, I would look at, the Chanderpaul, Sarwans coming in through the late 90s, early 2000s as the guys to look up to. I guess the one thing they could counter Cricket West Indies was they gave Sarwan a chance as a selector, where he dipped out after about 2 days.
As I was saying it, I was thinking that. but that's actually a very important point you've raised, because the other thing with the Gayle, Bravo, Pollard, Sarwan era is a lot of them have fight down stories from Cricket West Indies. Yeah. And so there has always been the part of me which is like, Yeah, but that era also got a fight down from David Cameron's generation and so on and so forth. So how willing are they to really, and this is why I'm saying, I think that's why I said what comes first, the chicken or the egg. How willing are they to help West Indies cricket when potentially, possibly, their view on West Indies cricket is, yeah, well, we got a fight down though just to play for West Indies.
Yeah,
or do you think that's not relevant?
I think even with DJ Barvo, it would still be an ongoing fight down over what happened with Darren Barvo, right? Because Darren Sammy was the white ball coach when the infamous press conference came out where, Desi said he's not looking at Darren Barvo, he's too old. And remember, Dwayne Barvo went on Instagram and cussed out everyone. So I think there's still some sort of ongoing issues. So I do think it's a case of, the history of what happened with this cohort of players and the previous Cricket West Indies board led by Dave Cameron. There are issues there, but we've seen it with like Pollard taking up the captaincy in 2019, DJ Bravo coming back into the setup around that period as well. The animosity is not that bad where they're completely cut off from West Indies cricket. They are willing to help. So I do believe that, they'd be willing to help the next generation of West Indies cricket. If Cricket West Indies, the thing is, if you've got animosity with the board, historically, it's up to Cricket West Indies to kind of build that relationship again. And to be honest, those players don't need to go to West Indies. They've got other gigs around the world, right? They're getting mentorship gigs around the world, coaching gigs. Dwayne Bravo coaches. Now he's a head coach in CPL, head coach in T20. Cricket West Indies need these players more than the players need Cricket West Indies at this point. So for me, the emphasis would be on Cricket West Indies. And, we've spoken well with, Mars Bascom, Kishore Shallow, Chris Daring. They're guys who have their head switched on, right? They know what's going on in the current cricket climate. Surely they would have seen, we've got all these cricket smarts in the region from retired players. The amount of T20s they played, Pollard, Bravo, even like a Sunil Narayan, how much they played collectively. Surely we need to tap into that if they're willing to help.
Yeah, well, I mean, even so, interestingly enough, and maybe Samuel Badri will listen to this as we say it right now. We're currently in an era where everyone is bemoaning the lack of leg spin options in the region, right? Yet in Samuel Badri, we have someone literally right there who could be doing camps all around the Caribbean. And yet some, like you always, like every now and again, you'll hear West Indies flew in a next man from Pakistan or India to do a spin camp or players done this. And I'm thinking, we've actually got players in the region. And I know, obviously, I know young Badri does a lot of commentating, but the people are literally right there. So I just, even if it's just, but actually, here's an interesting question, Santokie, because, and I use this because Guyana did this 2 years ago. Remember in Berbice, they paid for Curtly Ambrose and different sets of people to come to Berbice and do some camps. I'm not doing that or saying that to just big up Guyana and Berbice. I'm more doing that to say, is this just Cricket West Indies' responsibility though? Where is the part where we look at GCB, JCA, TTCB, Windwards, Leewards, Barbados, and say, well, actually, what's to stop you lot doing it? What's to stop JCA reaching out to maybe Chris Gayle's a stretch, but let's use Chris Gayle. What's to stop JCA reaching out to Chris Gayle and saying, listen, Chris, we'd like you to come to Sabina and just run a 1 week camp with the best identified batters? Does it have to be Cricket West Indies who does it? Can't the individual boards do something like this?
See, that's a tricky one because I know with the Berbice situation with the clinics they ran, I think who else? I think they even got Andy Roberts as well to come over.
Yeah.
That was all privately funded, right, by businessmen who are from America and the UK who happened to be from Berbice, made their money elsewhere and wanted to invest back. So that was essentially separate from the Guyana Cricket Board or the Berbice Cricket Board. It was just done as almost like a private sponsorship type of thing. So that sort of shows you the extent with like a Jamaica Cricket Board, for instance, or Trinidad, would they be able to financially be able to do that? But then that goes to the point where we were going back to is, do they have to offer a lucrative sum, or is there should be some onus on like a Chris Gayle to say, look, the JCA is where I developed as a player. It's my turn to sort of give back. We don't know what sort of communications happen, but again, it points to the issues, Mash. Like longer term, in an ideal world, you'd like to see territorial boards develop these players, right? And then when they make it to the international stage, it's only fine tuning. There's not really much.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But at the moment, with West Indies cricket, players are going into the West Indies setup raw. Like they've not got the fundamentals, and so it's up to Darren Sammy and a Ravi Rampal to sort of develop their fundamentals. And no disrespect to Darren Sammy, he's a great captain, but you wouldn't say he was a world-class, batter or bowler. He was a decent all-rounder for West Indies, but he wasn't a world star in either field. Similar to Ravi Rampal as well. He was a good bowler for West Indies cricket, but you wouldn't say he was world-class. Is it a case of now, if we're looking for a short-term fix, let's say over the next 2 years with West Indies players, is it a case of we have to get world-class players in now, like a Chris Gayle, someone who's world-class at batting, who can show these players, look, this is how you work on your fundamentals? Because from my opinion, the job is too much for Darren Sammy to try and fix the fundamentals of these players when he wasn't world-class himself, if that makes sense.
I'll take it a step further. If, let's just say, Cricket West Indies listen to this episode and they're like, you know what? These two London men, they annoy us, but they're making a good point here. Does it make more sense to get the legends involved at age group level, so under 15, under 16, under 17, rather than utilizing them at the top level? Is there more to be gained by trying to make... Now, what you could say, why on earth would Kieron Pollard give up his time to go and coach the best Trinidad and Tobago under 15s? I don't know. That's for Cricket West Indies and TTCB to work out with Pollard. But is his time better spent lower down, hopefully eradicating the flaws that are going to develop from there before they even get to under 19 such and such level?
Yeah, I think again, in an ideal world, you want these players to be able to work with youth players. But I think even if you look at most countries, you're not going to get players of that caliber kind of essentially stepping down to work with youth players, because there's a lot of work and commitment where you have to sort of be based with them for a long period of time. So I think if we're looking at an ideal world, that would be an ideal scenario. Pollard, Bravo working with the next generation under 15 levels and ironing out those flaws before they get to a senior regional level, right? But I think realistically now at this point in time, it's how much time can we get from Pollard and Bravo? Short amount of time. And how can we get them in working with the current crop of guys, and what can we do to fix it? It's hard to know how much of an impact that would have on the players. But I think at this point in time, Mash, I think what Brian Lara is essentially saying is there's so many issues. If you look at his statement, he said it's cultural, psychological, structural. It's not something. I don't know. I mean,
we're trying to deploy these men like Power Rangers. It's a million problems to solve.
Man said cultural, structural, psychological. It's done out. It's finished out. So essentially, what Lara's saying is, look, guys, we're at the bottom here. Like we need to try anything, guys. Whatever we've been doing for the last 25 years not working. We just need to try anything. Maybe him and Clive have had a private conversation and said, look, we can't take another L on this. We got to rope some other guys in to hold the L. Because then at least if Pollard came in and Gayle came in, right, I don't think you're going to get a magic. It's not going to fix West Indies cricket, right? It can help slightly. But then from Brian Lara's perspective, or if Cricket West Indies perspective, you can say, okay, well, we've tried those guys as well now. It hasn't worked. So I think what Lara's essentially saying is we need to try whatever's available and see what can happen. But the caveat is the issues go far beyond, certain players being able to help us.
Do you think this is gonna sound crazy, what I'm about to suggest, but I'm gonna push with it anyways? Do you think we should, all of our current West Indian players, do you think we should put them up for adoption? Right? Hold on, let me finish.
I said help a West Indian, aren't it? Man said you're going to open up the newspaper and see a picture of Casey Carty. Anyone want to take Casey Carty?
Let me finish. And the thing is, what you said is exactly what I actually mean, though. So we put them all up for adoption, and we reach out to all the former legends, modern and older, and we basically say, like how some of those charities will drop like a leaflet for your letterbox, and it'll be like, this kid is starving in Mozambique. Will you give £3? Will you give £3 a month to help them? Like, should we send out leaflets of all of our players to the legends and just be like, come on, pick one of them and pick one of them? These are Everyone's gonna think I'm making a big joke, but I'm being serious.
That was
Pick one of
that
them
line when you
and
said this is
adopt them for the
crazy.
year. And I know the word adoption sounds crazy, but I literally do mean basically you become their mentor for
Yeah.
the year.
So, all right. So yeah, I think if we do you remember and wrestling fans here, do you remember they used to do the NXT, whatever, the development system, and there was a
Yeah.
series where each young wrestler coming through had a mentor, like an experience. So like Daniel Bryan had the Miz, for instance, who sort of mentored him in wrestling. I think what could help is if each player in West Indies cricket, senior guys, or let's say guys who have been given a contract,
Yeah.
you get given an assigned mentor to work with you for that whole year. So let's say Shea Hope, his mentor could be Brian Lara. Brian Lara specifically just works with Hope, keeps in contact with Hope, touches base with Hope.
Yeah.
Not even, it can also be like just check-ins, how you doing, how you
it
feeling.
doesn't have to be nets, it could be 3 Zoom calls a month.
Yeah,
now, because
exactly.
Brian Lara's a rich man, he might say to Shay, you know what? Here's a plane ticket. I want you to come over to Trinidad. We're going to work on some stuff. Shay can, Shay might not, but it's a mentorship that it primarily is.
Yeah, I think that would, and then you have that sort of mentor, and so you're not putting the onus on 2 or 3 former legends to fix every single player in West Indies cricket, but you're giving them a specific remit to work with, and I think that could help. So I think that would help, having some sort of close mentorship. Again, it's whether West Indies have the finances to do that, whether the players have the sort of the former players want to commit to that. But I think that would be a good avenue to go down, Mesh.
You know what? Let's not even go any further, because that, as much as that started off as a jokey point, we're actually being serious. And I think that's a good point to leave it at, because that point, almost what we're saying to you as the audience is, you may not agree with what Santokie and I just said or anything preceding that, but what would you do? First and foremost, do you agree with Brian Lara? Secondly, if you do or don't agree with Brian Lara, what would you be doing instead as a way to get the legends? In this sense, we're talking about the modern ones, but if you want to talk about the pre-modern ones, also use them. What could they realistically do to help West Indies cricket? Last words to you, Santokie.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting. I think it's an interesting debate, because we've sort of shunned these modern legends out of the game. I mean, I'm sure people in the comments will say it's a disgrace to call them legends because they've only played white ball cricket. But if you ask even if you ask most fans in India, Pollard and Bravo are legends, right? Because of what they did in franchise cricket. So we've got a resource that we've not tapped into, and a wealth of knowledge and experience that could help West Indies cricket. So it'd be interesting to go down that route. We haven't even touched on, we've mentioned them a few times. Shivnarine Chanderpaul probably up there as alongside Gayle. Well, Chanderpaul played even longer into the 2000s, sort of a world-class batter who played relatively modern cricket. We know he was mooted as sort of the head coach before Sammy took up the role, or before Andre Kohli got the role. Sort of hasn't worked out, but why haven't we got Chanderpaul in? Especially when his whole skill set of being able to soak up balls and stay in there is exactly what West Indies batters need to do. So that again is another untapped resource. There's loads of modern players who we can sort of gather and kind of put together and work with West Indies. So it'd be interesting to see. But as always, comment below. What do you think can fix West Indies cricket? Is it a case of, getting the older legends back and helping the problems? Or do you think, as Brian Lara hinted at, the structural, psychological, financial issues are essentially means that whoever comes in to help West Indies cricket isn't going to be able to save us? But comment below. How would you fix West Indies cricket? And as always, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow us on, Instagram, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook.com. We're still out there with a group, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Patreon, if you can donate, we've had a few more people donate. It's massively helped us to reinvest into, editing, releasing shorts, social media. And MASH is now the case of the Discord, the popular Discord group. We've kind of changed the terms now. So do you sort of want to explain how? We've had a lot of people asking, how do people get access to the Discord group?
Yeah, so to get into the Discord, people, as you can see on the ticker tape below, head to www.patreon.com/CaribCricket. And once you sign up on one of the paid tiers, you automatically get entry to the Discord. The more you sign up for, the more you get. So if you sign up for the £5 one, you get 25% off merch. We've got some brand new shirts coming. They haven't arrived yet, but they're supposed to be delivered this week or the beginning of next. So look out for that, 25% off. If you sign up for the £10 one, you get all of these podcasts ad-free delivered into your inbox plus the 25% off, plus the Caribbean Cricket Podcast Discord, and more on and more and more of that. So at the bare minimum, if all you can give is a little £2, $2, £2, £2, €2, whatever, you get access to the private CCP community.
Yeah, and also during this period, you know, with CPL going on, you know, there's not actually any West Indies cricket. Obviously, we've got players playing the CPL, but there's no actual West Indies international cricket. So if you are on Patreon and watching this and you'd like us to discuss a topic relating to West Indies cricket or wider issues, comment on the Patreon or shoot us a message on Patreon. And anyone, you know, on Patreon who suggests ideas and we look at it and think, you know, oh, right, this makes an interesting episode, we'll drop that episode during CPL. We'll come up with a theme. So if you are on Patreon, drop your suggestions. What do you think me and Mash should talk about over the coming weeks outside of CPL? We're open to all suggestions, interesting ideas, but you have to be on Patreon for us to, you know, see that message and take it on board.
Yes, people. So we've been the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. That's been the latest episode. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Algorithm. And we'll see you all very, very soon.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.